live, just so you know.
Okay.
I'm going to mute it though. Good morning, everybody. It's 8:58. My goodness, we didn't get enough time to enjoy sleep. Feels like we were just here. Oh, Vicki, I love your little emojis. Hope everyone's doing good. We are expecting some pretty tough storms, I think, brewing this evening. So you want an action plan in case we get some hail and get all of your, miss you too, all of your lawn furniture or anything outside. It's supposed to be pretty bad. So our commute could be rough, but it might be later in the later evening, but definitely it's going to be a bumpy ride, I think. You're going to need a piece of paper and a pen. I need y'all to write everything down that I write down. And even though my building students who are in the campus, yeah, your plants, be careful, especially if they have beautiful blooms on them, move them because they might be destroyed. We have our building students going to participate with us too, and they're going to write each of these questions down. I think there will be a pretty big eye-opener for some people on this histology portion that we're going to go over, because a lot of times these are just terms and vocab that we don't always remember. So it'll be a great refresher for everyone. Just kind of wake up, get our brains moving, all that good stuff. So I'm going to give everybody a few minutes to kind of get settled. It's only 8:59 right now. Glad to see my online people. So again, you have both schools observing, whether you're in the building or whether you're at home or driving or at work. Wherever you're at, we're all together. So we can recognize that, but they just won't be chatting so that we don't get our roll calls all mixed up. Y'all did an amazing job on the images that you sent yesterday. Very, very good job. And Sam, I think you said you did your 2-hour project, but we did not see it unless there's something. So you might want to resubmit that to us. Because I told Katie, I said, when you go to the distance learning, the BBS distance learning assignment Gmail, I want to see any of the projects, because I'm always so interested in the level of creativity. Some of y'all have some amazing creativity and enjoy creating projects. So anyway, and so we're getting some enrollment here. We're doing well. Again, thank you for your participation yesterday and drawing all those images. I hope that the repeated knowledge is putting it right here in your brains and getting you all ready for this little review that we're going to do. So I never know where to look. I don't know if I'm looking right up here. I know you're supposed to look at that camera, so I'm wondering if I always look like I'm looking down, but it's kind of weird. It's always strange to sit behind a camera like this. Something I've had to get used to. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood you. Okay, Sam. I thought yesterday you said that you sent the 2-hour project. I thought that you had already done it. And I was like, wow, this girl is spending every minute with us. So, okay, that explains that. And Mallory, Randy's going to talk to you and Amy Scaines about y'all's books. He will be, I have my little reminder notes right here, and he's going to make sure he talks to you about that. And I guess that's really all the announcements we have. I will tell you some of these state board review questions on this chapter. Wow. Talk about subjective. You look at what we studied yesterday and you think, oh, that's pretty easy. I can just sort of remember that. But then when you get those review questions that are A, B, C, D, the trickiness, the subjectiveness of having two answers that could be the same is horrible. So I'll make sure that we go through that the rest of the week, and that you are well versed in what answer to give. So we've got great attendance this morning, 42 people online, and it looks like we're about ready. So if you would, I would like everybody, every single person that's in the building who's not with a client, to write these questions down. You're going to turn these into me. And if you don't know the answers, be honest with yourself. And I hope it speaks to you. I hope it speaks to you and tells you that you really need to do some studying, because these questions can be difficult, because it's not our primary income. Really, it's not really providing to the income, but it's providing the knowledge in the brain for knowing our profession and for answering our state board questions. So I'm going to start with the first one, where you have 50 questions. I want you to write them down. I'm going to hold up the question so that you can see it. And you don't, if you want to shorthand it, that's fine. You don't need to write it perfectly. Those of you trying to write too neat, don't keep us going too slow. I know y'all love to write neat, some of you, but let's keep our tempo. Okay. First question. What is the tube-like depression that encases the root? What is the tube-like depression that encases the root? This is exactly how this question will be worded on your state board. You don't have to answer on the chat, because I know that I'm having you write it. Yes, you can type them. What is the tube-like depression that encases the root? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and give you the answer to this. Maybe we can get one or two people to answer on the chat if your hands are free. But the answer is the follicle. So the follicle is that little tube-like depression that goes right below the skin and houses the root, which is the hair that's below the skin. I certainly hope y'all got that answer. I bet y'all did, my little smart students. Next one. What are the two divisions of the hair? So the hair is divided into two, as we discussed yesterday. The hair is divided into two. So jot that down real quick. It can be shorthand, and you can clean it up, or you can type it, whatever's good for you for study purposes. And these are going to be all scramble type of questions, all about the epidermis, those 5 layers, the dermis, and the 3rd layer adipose tissue. All right. So what are the two divisions of the hair? Above the skin, we have the shaft, and below the skin that's encased inside that follicle or that root, that follicle is the root. So the two divisions of the hair is follicle and root. Third question. Again, we have 50. Which layer of the skin produces melanin? Now remember, melanin is produced by melanocytes. So which layer of the skin produces melanin? I want to see if I can get one or two people to answer that, to see what kind of answer we get from people who studied this in depth with me all day yesterday. We won't be turning this in. This will not be one of your assignments, so no. Just writing it down, jotting it down, study purposes, and to help your brain remember all this wonderful stuff. Good try, Demaya, but what part of the epidermis? We have 5 layers of epidermis. So in those 5 layers of epidermis, which one of those 5 layers produces melanin? So you're close. Perfect. Basal layer. Now we know that the basal layer has 2 other terms. One term is very old, and that is mucosum, M-U-C-O-S-U-M. That's our old term that many of us old timers learned. And it's now called the basal, and it's also called the germinativum layer. Germinativum. So, which layer of the skin produces melanin from melanocytes? Basal, germinativum, mucosum. All mean the same for the same word. Next question. Number 4. Which layer, there we go. Which layer is on palms, soles, and lips? And as I taught you yesterday, there's some discrepancy that this layer is truly on some parts of our bodies as well. But primarily for years, we've been told this layer is only found on the palms, the soles, and our lips. And that layer is the lucidum. It is part of the epidermal layer of those 5 layers, but it's the lucidum. And remember, the lucidum layer is our glassy layer that's clear and thick. So that's our stratum lucidum. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. Okay, next. Number 5. Which layer is prickly? I got to get over here to read it. And will mend those layers together. It mends them together, sort of grabs them. It's that prickly, spiny layer that's going to help mend those layers together and draw them close together. That one is part of the epidermis still. It's one of the 5 layers of the epidermis. And that layer is the spinosum. S-P-I-N-O-S-M. Spinosum. S-U-M. Sorry. Spinosum. S-U-M. So that's our prickly, spiny layer. Spinosum. I'm teaching y'all to write fast, aren't I? Sorry about that. Y'all gotta get started fast. Number 6. Which structure causes goose flesh? So in the structures within the dermis layer, the second largest layer of the skin, which is known as our true skin, there is a structure that causes goose flesh. Let's see if we can get 1 or 2 people to answer that one if your hands are free. Perfect. Erector pili muscle. For those of you who are having difficulty spelling some of these tough words, we have it written for you there in the chat box. Okay, number 7. Which structure releases sebum into the follicle? We know that sebum is oil. So there's a layman's term for this structure, and then there's a little bit larger term. So there's actually 2 names for the one structure. So which structure releases sebum into the follicle? I'm going to give you the answer. That is oil gland, because oil is connected to the follicle, supplying oil and lubrication to the skin and to the scalp, and pouring that oil into our scalp, which makes us need a good shampoo to reduce all the oil. But it keeps our skin soft and supple. So that is sebaceous gland, which is written there in the chat box for you. State Board is going to call it a sebaceous gland most definitely. They might use the word oil gland, but you really need to start remembering that oil gland is sebaceous gland. All right. Number 8. What is the division of the hair? I got to look over here, guys. I'm sorry, I can't read backward. What is the division of the hair above the skin called? So right above the skin, we talked about the 2 divisions of the hair. One is above the skin that we cut, color, tint, and then one is below the skin inside that follicle. This one's very easy because we just went over it. It is the shaft. So number 8 is shaft, the 2 divisions of the hair. Am I going too fast? Can someone let me know? Number 9, what is the division of the hair below the skin? So the division of the hair below, so above and below. Above the skin is shaft, and below the skin is root. Thank you, Monica. Great. Thank you, Sydney. So below the skin is the root, and that is the portion that is growing through an anagen, catagen, and telogen stage. Thank y'all for that confirmation. All right. The next one, number 10. What is the coiled area at the base of the sweat gland called? So right at the base of the sweat gland, we have this jumbled mess that looks like a ball of yarn that's been unraveled. And that has a particular name. And because the term is not used very often, someone could chat that for me with your fingers in the chat box for people who need spelling or English as their second language. That would be helpful for those students. And that is our fundus. Thank you, Chloe. That's the coiled up portion at the base of the sweat gland. All right, number 11. What is the first level, whoops, sorry, I'm reading backwards, layer, I gotta do like that. What is the first layer of the dermis? Now, yesterday we talked about how the dermis is actually divided into two. The upper portion, which is a little smaller, which has some touch receptors, some lymph, and some capillaries. But right below that is more vascular, and that section's a little larger. So again, for people who can chat that in the box, that would be great. And that is called our papillary layer. That is the first little layer of the dermis. Good try, Connor. I see you're at least trying there. You're doing good. The first layer of the dermis. So that's papillary. So someone could type papillary for people who need a little help with the spelling and that did not participate with me yesterday. All right. We're on to number 12. Woohoo, we're making progress. What is another term for stratum corneum? Another term for stratum corneum. So the stratum corneum is the outermost layer. We know that it's often known as the squamous flattened layer. And we called it another term yesterday. Can y'all remember what it is? Scarf skin. Very good. Perfect. That's our outermost layer that is completely dead and flattened. All right. Number 13. Which layer is called the true skin? This one's easy. You can just write down your paper. True skin equals dermis. That's our dermis layer. True skin is dermis. All right. Number 14. Which layer? Oh, I got to do this again. Is does. Oh, that's terrible. Which layer does? No, is does. Which layer does mitosis occur? Now, this one's going to take some thought. For those of you who participated with me yesterday, I'm going to see if you can get that answer. And anyone who has studied this. Glad you love my speed, Mallory. Thank you. The one thing about it is those of you who need it a little slower, you can always go back to the video and just write these questions down for great study purposes. So which layer does this mitosis occur? Let me see if anybody got that yet. Ooh, we don't have anybody with it yet. I'll give you a hint. Melanin is also formed in here. So melanin and mitosis, the two M's. Melanin, mitosis, both great. Basal, germinativum, they are both the same term. So basal, mucosum, germinativum. All three of those words mean that one layer of epidermis, which is the bottom, or as Connie mentioned in the feed, that is the fifth layer. So mitosis and melanin, the M&Ms, that occurs in the germinativum layer. Awesome. All right. Here we go. Number 15. My paper's yellow. We ran out of white paper. Jeremy had to run to the office supply. All right, so I hope it doesn't look too dark. When cells divide, these are known as what kind of a cell? What is the name of those cells when they divide into two? So that mitosis occurs, then they divide, and that is called daughter cells. Like a daughter, like a son and a daughter. That's how it's spelled. So the answer to 15 is daughter. (16) What is the second layer to the dermis called? So we talked about the first little layer, and that small little layer called the papillary layer, where we have those touch receptors just underneath, giving us touch and pressure and heat and cold and pain. So we have those little bouncy guys known as tactile corpuscles. And then we have that second largest layer, and someone probably needs to type that because the spelling can be difficult. It is called the reticular layer. So number 16 is reticular. That's the second layer of the dermis. That's that vascular layer that contains all those other wonderful structures like the erector pili muscle. Number 17, which layer is the hair root found? So between the papillary layer and the reticular layer, which layer overall would you say that the root is found? We'll just call it the dermis layer. So the dermis layer is where all of that is found. So those other structures. So really we could say papillary and reticular because that means one big section known as the dermis, which is also called the true skin. We're doing good on time. It's 26 minutes so far. Y'all are earning y'all's worth here. I'm making you right. I hope y'all are learning. Number 18. What are the two sweat glands? Woo-woo! So we know that sweat glands, State Board is probably not going to call that a sweat gland. Yes, Olivia, it's true. And it's so thin, but I guess it is a lot thicker than we think. I'm going to write down the word for you because they're not going to call it a sweat gland at State Board. And we talked about that yesterday during our distance learning. So I'm going to write it down here so you can catch that too. Sorry, it's in a pen. You'll have to squint. Sudoriferous gland. So what are the two sweat glands called? What are the two sudoriferous glands? So the answer, Victoria and Chloe have chatted it in the chat box. The eccrine and apocrine glands. One is smelly and ductless, and one is all over the body and has a duct. And those are definitely on your written exam. They want to trick you on those questions because they're tough. She's on fire, isn't she, Connor? Okay, number 19. Which sweat gland is found under the arms? Tough question. Wonder if y'all can remember. Which one is found under the arms, in the genitalia, the groin, the breast, and they give a milky thick? Perfect. Apocrine. 20. Which sweat gland has a duct? So one of them empties with a duct on the exterior of the skin, and one of them empties into the follicle. It's connected to the follicle in the root. So the apocrine has no duct. It's ductless. The eccrine is going to secrete on the exterior of the skin, maintaining the body temperature. So thank goodness we have those. Otherwise, we'd all burn up. So the answer to 20 is eccrine. The answer to 19 is apocrine. Did I have another one on there? No. Okay. Halfway there, almost. 5 more questions and we're halfway there. Y'all are doing great. Keep going. Which sweat gland may produce body odor? So 21. Where's my drink? Hold on, I'm gonna grab my water. Which sweat gland produces body odor? Apocrine. That's the one that's connected to the follicle, has no duct, is under the arms, genitalia, breasts, and has a milky secretion. Perfect. 22. What are the two types of, I gotta look here. Oh, connective tissue. I thought that said corneocytes. When you read backwards, it's hard. What are two types of connective tissue? Elastin and collagen. And oh boy, do those help us to age. So those two things, we need to take our supplements. We're going to talk about collagen, elastin, and in our segue this week. And causes that aging process, that skin to drag, those wrinkles. So collagen and elastin, number 22. 23, definitely a state board question for everyone. Club-like structure located at the base of the root. So the base of the root, we know the root is the hair. The hair inside, tucked inside that follicle, that tube-like depression. But down at the very bottom, our estheticians like to try to pull that hair completely out of that follicle and wax it and tweeze it, laser it, get it out of there. And that's our bulb. Yes. If we can get down there and pull that bulb out, that it'll take a while before the hair begins to grow and through that follicle, and shaving will be eliminated. So we want to really do a great job on the waxing and the tweezing. But if we do too much, we shatter that club-like structure, we shatter that papilla, and then that poor hair never grows back. And maybe we want that hair to grow back because maybe we want a different brow look. So be careful making those decisions on tweezing over and over repeatedly. You might be living with the same brow for the rest of your life. 24, am I on 24? I hope. Which structure at the base of the root, provides growth and nourishment? So which structure is located at the base of the root? Now, we just talked about the bulb. That's that club-like structure down at the very base. I showed y'all a picture of it. You drew great images yesterday. So right below that, what is going to provide nourishment for the growth of the hair and the growth of the root? Because we know that the root is called the hair. That is papilla, Papilla. Answer to 24 is papilla. 25. What are touch receptors under the papillary layer called? So right under that dermis, in that dermis, that papillary layer, that's our first tiny little layer. And we had these dancing little things yesterday. I showed the students, they kind of look like this. And they just sort of dance along under the dermis, right near the edge of the dermis right there. And they just dance a little, they're kind of cone-shaped. Someone typed for me in the box that is tactile corpuscles. And there's a lot of those big names for the different touch receptors, Merkel cell and the Meissner's corpuscle and such. There I go again with that word, and such. My daughter says, Mom, you say and such too much. So what are the touch receptors under the papillary layer? They are called tactile, Tactile, corpuscles. So someone can chat that in the box for people with spelling errors. That would be great. That's answer to 25. Okay, so for my people who are online right now, tell me, were you getting half of these right, half of these wrong? How's it going? Needed the review? Didn't need the review? You're smart. You got it. Half and half. Good. So the repetition, again, is what we need for learning. That's how we learn the best as human creatures is repetition, repetition, repetition. Good. About 70%. Great. Needed the review? Good. Okay, great. That's great feedback for me because as a teacher, I don't know what you're retaining and what you're not retaining. So it's really good. And then when you take that written, y'all will do fabulous. Those of you in 1,000-hour program, you will be able to take your you're written at 900 clock hours. Just little FYI out there. That's the new guideline. Glad to know you need to study more. Needed to check my notes. I know my people in the building. I hope that y'all are learning something in this first hour. We got out of bed. We drove all the way to work and school. So we need to learn something. We need to be proactive. We need to get our hands on our mannequins, and we need to not waste any time. Okay, ready? 26. The name of the glue at the base of the basal layer. Now, remember, the basal layer is also called mucosum, and it's also called germinativum. But there's this glue-like area that mends these two sections together, and it seals it, so to speak. And there's a little line there. And that's this little glue-like area at the basal. You can also write the word germinativum as a reminder on your page, and mucosum. The word mucosum you're probably not going to see, but if you go to the dermatologist or you work with a physician, they might use that old term because they might be, in their later years still practicing using that term. So this is called, can anybody remember? We did not cover this too often yesterday. I want to see if I've got one person on distance learning who may have caught this and remembered it. I'll give y'all a few minutes. While y'all are thinking about that, I want you to start looking at number 27. What is another term for basal or basali? It's spelled either way. Layer. Oh, I just gave you those answers. Germinativum or mucosum? Oh, good. Chloe and Victoria, basal lamina. And a more layman's term, go ahead and jot this one down for number 26, please, which would be, hold on, let me make sure. Base membrane. So it could be called the base membrane on number 26, and it can also be called the basal lamina. Basal lamina. You're so funny. Basal lamina or base membrane. Either one is correct on 26. If someone can chat that, base membrane / or / basal lamina. Okay, here we go. 28. So we talked about that glassy, clear layer that is thick, found on the palms and the soles primarily. So in that layer, which is called the lucidum, are there any hair follicles? So use a little common sense on this one. On our palms and soles, do we have the hair follicles? Do we have a root and a shaft? No. 28 is no. 29, and I'll let 30 go ahead and exist. Y'all can jot it down. Which layer is granular? So the granular layer on 29 is granulosum. Someone type granulosum in the chat box for me. Granulosum. And then what is keratin? 30 is what is keratin? 28, which layer is granular? That's granulosum. And then we said, what is keratin? So keratin, good. Protein substance. Okay, thank you, Lynn. So granulosum is the answer to 29. I chatted it in the chat box for you. And then 30, what is keratin? Keratin is a protein substance. And then 31, what are some one or more examples of hard keratin? So when the protein substance is down in the living basal germinativum layer, as that protein hardens up to the stratum corneum where it's flattened, and squamous and very, very dead. Once it gets to that squamous level of hardened keratin, some examples would be our nails, our hair, hooves on animals, and feathers on birds. So we have 4 examples there. And let's see, spell check for 27. 27, let me get my little sheet. Another term for basal, and it can be spelled with an E or with no E. And the other term for that basal layer is germinativum. All right, we are on 32. We're making great time. What does cornified mean? So cornified means that the keratin is being hardened. So it's basically another term for hardened keratin. (33) What does integumentary mean? Simply means the skin. (34) What is the largest organ of the body? I told my distance learners yesterday that you might have the word brain as an answer or the skin, and that's going to be topsy-turvy and maybe difficult, and hopefully they wouldn't put you in that position because some textbooks say brain and some textbooks say skin. Since we're on the topic of histology, we are going to answer skin. So the answer to 33 and 34 is the answer is skin. I'm sure you will see this question, number 35. Is the skin waterproof? Well, when we go swimming and we take a bath, yes, the skin is not drinking water. Fortunately, otherwise we'd be very, very heavy. So it is waterproof. So the answer is yes. And 36, what is the normal body temperature? That should be just something you've known your whole life from the first time you ever got a fever and an adult told you what it should be because you probably asked. 98.6. (37) How many days does it take for the skin to live and then die? So from the bottom of the most living epidermal layer, which is our basal germinativum, all the way through the other layers, the spinosum, the granulosum, the lucidum, up to the stratum corneum, it takes 25 to 42 days to reach the top. So the squamous, dead, flattened epidermal area is being shed that often. So the answer is 25 to 42 days. Number 38. What does squamous mean? It means flattened flattened dead cells of the outermost layer. I'm going to write that down, or if somebody can chat that. Flattened dead epidermal cells. So the skin's real puffy in those other layers, and it just gets flatter and flatter and flatter. Ashley, no problem. Take your time. Langerhans and dendritic cells help in what way? These are some cells that are dancing around the epidermis area, and they support immunity. So the squamous means dead, flattened keratin epidermis dead cells, and Langerhans dendritic. These are cells that fight and help our immunity of the skin. And Chloe has the answer to 39 chatted for me. Okay, what do I have here? Which layer is the transformation layer from living to dying? So in those epidermis layers, the 5 layers, we know that the living one is the basal, also called germinativum. So once it really begins to transfer to the dead one, which is the outermost, the transformation between the living and the dead in those epidermis layers is the granulosum, the granular layer. It's still a little bit fluffy and fat right there. So that's when it flattens out above that layer. So the answer to 40 is granulosum. Okay. Wait, did I miss? Oh, no. Okay. I'm going to do 41 and 42 because I'm going to hold it up like that. What is the pH of the skin? That's going to be on everyone's test. You need to know it. And you need to know it exactly, not an approximate or anything like that. It's 4.5 hyphen to 5.5. And I want to talk about 41 here in just a moment. I need to elaborate on something, but I'm going to go ahead and finish 42. So the pH of the skin is 4.5 to 5.5. Number 42, what is I gotta look. What is another name for the barrier of the skin? So this barrier contains sebum, lipids, and lipids, glycolipids, are between these little cell fibers. So these lipids, along with sebum and water, create this barrier of protection, and it's called the acid mantle. Perfect. Good job, Victoria. So the barrier is called the acid mantle, and the acid mantle has a pH of 4.5 to 5.5. Now, I hate this because all of my life you study one thing, and then I want you to be very familiar, even for our permanent wave chapter. They're going to trick you on the multiple choice questions. I need to let you know this. So I'm going to sketch this out real quick and make sure that everyone hears this. So for so many years of all my learning, we have been taught acid and alkaline on our pH chart. There was never this word called acid balance in any of the textbooks, but now it has entered the textbook, and this is a whole new arena for old timers like myself. And so what they've done to trick you, and y'all will discover this when I go through the exact state board questions and we go through those questions for additional review, you're going to see this pop up. This right here simply means this. Acid to alkaline is a pH scale of 0 to 14. They now want to call this word, we used to call this word neutral, and we're still going to call it neutral, because everywhere across the world they call it neutral. But in our arena, they're beginning to call it acid balance. So you just need to remember that's a 7. So when they ask you what is the what's the pH of the skin, this is going to be an answer, and this is going to be an answer. And I'm going to check for accuracy on that answer, but I believe it's going to be this one right here. We do have those questions we're going to go over, multiple choice with the state board questions, but you see the subjectiveness between this one and this one. So really important that you remember acid balance simply means neutral. Another way that they trick you is this. I've seen this done, where they eliminate the term alkaline and they say highly acid. Well, highly acid would mean anything above 7. They're not doing this as much in some of the textbooks that I'm seeing, but these two right here are definitely new. Okay, so don't get stumbled with people trying to trick you. It shouldn't trick you. That's not nice. Okay, 43 and 44. I'll put them both up. What is the name of the third layer of the skin? So the third layer of the skin has 3 names. And the second question, 43 and 44, are basically the same question. And there are actually 4. Yes, it is, Chloe. So the names for the third layer of the skin, I'm going to put them in the chat box. I'm going to put the paper down. We have, let me put my glasses on so I can spell. Subcutaneous, adipose, good. Subcutaneous, adipose, hypodermis, and subcutis. All right. Those are the 4 terms for the answers for number 43 and 44. '45. What is the purpose of the adipose subcutaneous hypodermis subcutis layer? Providing cushion for the body and helping to make any injury a lot less harsh to the body. So it's cushion to the body. '46. Which layer is known as the scarf skin? We talked about that on one of the very first questions today, and that is stratum corneum. Perfect, Alexis. I like that answer. '46. Which layer is known as the scarf skin? Epidermis. Stratum corneum is 46. And then 47. Where are nerves, these tactile corpuscles and Meissner's corpuscles, where are they most abundant? I'm going to see if my distance learning people can remember that from yesterday. Where are the nerves most abundant? Perfect. Fingertips. So these Merkel cells, number 48, these Merkel cells, they're touch receptors. What are they feeling? Are they feeling heat? Are they feeling pain? Are they feeling touch? Are they feeling pressure? The answer is touch and pressure for number 48. And they're little cone-shaped guys all throughout the dermis layer. And 49. What is fibrous protein? That word fibrous can be a little glitch for people maybe where English is your second language and they stick that word in there trying to confuse you. Just what is protein? Just forget about that word fibrous and just what is protein? It is keratin. Okay, and our last question is, does melanin assist with protection from UV rays? So we do know that melanin is produced with mitosis in the germinative and basal mucosum layer. And we also know that, thank goodness, melanin, which gives us the color of our irises, of our eyes, our hair, and our skin color, that it does give us some protection from UV rays. So the answer is yes. So before I close, I want to let everyone know that, I would want to give my students who are in the building the opportunity for 2 hours at home if you want, because you're probably not getting your full 32 hours. And if we have some bad storms, we might end up closing the building maybe at 4 o'clock just to make sure people are safe from, we're just going to keep an eye on the weather. My students that are in the building, y'all are allowed to do this too. These are just some little projects on the layers of the skin. You can create any kind of model you want between now and Friday at home, or you can work on it in the building too. But you can work on this little model. This would be an example of labeling the parts and such. I'll check that for you, Jessica. 1 second. And here is another example of the model. And my distance learning people, in order for them to be contracted for 32 hours, this is a project that they have to do at home and show me a really good picture. Like, this person used some styrofoam on the back and actually built a shelf and stuff, but this could be done on poster board. You can use pasta noodles. You can use rubber cement glue to hold it down, M&Ms. You could use the little tactile corpuscles, rice. You could use yarn, kind of whatever you want to do with the labeling. But, 2 hours is a lot of time, so it needs to look like you put 2 hours into it. So that is due Friday at 5 o'clock, no later. So I'll give that opportunity to my building students as well, if you would like to earn a couple more hours. So I would love for y'all to learn a little better too. So that, and then let me check that number 44. Another term for the third, adipose, Chloe. Adipose, subcutaneous, adipose, subcutaneous, hypodermis, and subcutis. Olivia. 40, and then wasn't that 43? Let me check on that for y'all. I have it right here, my little sheets. 43. Yes, that was 43 and 44. Really, they're exactly the both questions. Really ridiculous in my end. What is the third layer of the skin? And then 44, what's another term for the third layer of the skin? And there are actually 4. So, okay, perfect. Mallory's got those answers written right in there for you. Let me see if there's something else I want to tell you all. I think someone asked if they had to bring it back in the building. If it's so wonderful that I want you to bring it back to the buildings just so I can have it, and you don't want it, and it was going to go to the garbage, please give it to me, because I love having these things in the building, these little 3D models of your creativity. So yes, I would love to have it if you want. Send a picture of it, and I would love to. Oh, gotcha. I see, Chloe. I would love to have it, but send a picture. Those of you sending a picture for that credit that are not on distance learning and you've now returned to the building, these images are not coming to any teachers' emails. It's going to BBS distance. I'm typing it in, learning at gmail.com. Okay. I wonder why, Olivia. You sure Katie didn't get it? I'll ask her on our break. So distance learning people, you're getting an assignment coming in the mail. Let me find it. People in the building, y'all can just log off unless you want this assignment that I'm going to give them for additional practice. You may do this assignment with them if you would like. I'm just trying to find it. Oh, here we go. No, what did Jeremy do with it? Okay. Let me tell Katie real quick to send it. Hey, Jeremy. Jeremy, would you make sure Katie sends the assignment to their email? Estheticians, if you're back in the back and you're still on live with me, you might tell Katie to go ahead and send that email out. These questions you will not turn in. No, this is if you cared about your education and you jot them down, then it's fantastic, and that's just more power to you, and you are gonna come out a winner. There's gonna be 3 exercises for you to do like you did yesterday. One of them looks like this. I can't find the other 2, I think because Katie took off with it, but this is one of them. You're just going to list these parts on here, and then I will go over and review it with you. So in this next hour, take a peek at this, jot the answers down. There's 3 different ones just for a quick little review. So jot down the answers. I'll go over them with you from 12 to, oh gosh, guys. Yes, 12 to 1. I'll see you at 12 to 1. I'm going to go over these answers with you. The assignment that you're turning in, that you're writing down, it will be turned in at 5 o'clock today. So all of those assignments that you're getting today are turned in at 5 o'clock. That's giving my TDLR proof that you are earning that clock hour. So go ahead and log out, distance learning people, if you'd like. So none of the notes, the 50 questions that you wrote down, that is for you, for your study purposes, and for you to get even better and stronger with this chapter and all the words. Y'all have a great time, great day. It is, looks like it's 10:54, but my clock shows that we went, oh, that's because I got on a little early. So y'all have a good little break. Check your email, and hopefully y'all are learning more, and then we'll continue the chapter with the rest of the week. Work on your project. Get your project done. Those 2 extra hours are fun. Okay? Thank you. Bye. Okay, guys, I'm going to end the stream. Check your email. Thank you.